Paolillo?
Paolillo. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'll take it.
Oh my gosh, Kristy, I just totally mispronounced your name. I am Lucky Team Wilpers, everybody. I'm here with Kristy. You say it.
Paolillo.
I've been mispronouncing it this whole time. I apologize. Anyway, lucky me. You are our athlete spotlight, and you've got plenty to spotlight. But I've had the pleasure of being able to talk with you the past few weeks and months and get you ready for a MS ride 80. You did 80 miles, yes, from
75. 75.
75. I thought it was 80. You could have totally padded that, but oh, well done. That was a big, lofty goal for you a few months ago, and we got you there, and you got through it. And man, what I'll tell you, I was on a ladder a couple Sunday afternoons, getting some bugs away from a window or something, and the phone rang, and it was you after that ride, and I had to
Oh,
answer it. You were shrieking. You were so happy that you finished, and
oh
oh,
no.
it was great. I was up on a ladder. My daughter's looking at me like, "Who are you talking to from the ladder?" I'm like,
Oh,
I had to take this. So, what else? Tell us a little bit more about you, just quickly.
yeah, sure. So basics, born and raised in Jersey. I did leave the country for a few years. I lived in the Middle East for 3 years, and then I did move back to the Virginia area, and I worked there for a while, and now I'm back in Jersey. Some other things, I have a twin. Not everybody knows that. She's not on Facebook or anything, but we, we're we're very connected. It's awesome.
Does she ride
And
bikes too?
she got the Peloton in 2020. It took me a while to convince her, and now she loves it as much as I do, so that's pretty cool. I feel like I converted someone. And
A
not yet
leader.
my partner. Yeah, I'm working on converting my partner. I actually bought him a pair of shoes, thinking that okay, all I got to do is buy the shoes and he'll clip in. And he did put the shoes on, and I remember him like flopping around in the living room. I used to have a T-shirt that said "Sorry, I can't. I have plans with Matt Wilpers," and he got jealous. And then he said he was walking around in the shoes saying, "Sorry, Matt, she's got plans with Jay Evans." So that
Oh,
was
that's
fun.
awesome. Just putting
Yeah,
shoes.
yeah.
I bought shoes for my wife. She is still my wife after I got her the shoes, but I was on a bike trip in California, and she was there, and I got her shoes to ride in outdoor bike, and she was fine on the flats, but as soon as we went uphill, she went downhill and fell over. Psh. And
Oh,
she doesn't ride bikes with me much anymore. We did just get her an e-bike, but still, yeah, the
oh,
clip-in
good.
shoes.
It's a
Stick
challenge.
with the
It's
indoor
definitely a
bike. Yeah,
challenge. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, good, good. So, all right, cool. Well, it sounds like he's very support,
Oh yeah.
supportive
I'm
of
very
you and your
lucky.
Peloton and your training and
Yeah.
your outdoor riding obsession. Is it an obsession?
It is. I caught the bug. I love it. And you know what it's not fair because somebody asked me, what do you like more now, outdoor riding or your Peloton? And I said, you can't ask me that. I said that's not a fair question.
Yeah,
And
you
I
can't
think
choose.
I think I had to answer diplomatically. I think I said that they complement each other, which is actually very true. I said I can't do one fully without the other. They help, build off each other.
Good
So,
answer. Good answer.
yeah.
Yes, I love it. Well, how did you get into Peloton? How long ago? How did it happen? What? Tell us that story.
Yeah, so that's kind of funny. I got my Peloton in summer of 2017, and it happened kind of by mistake. I bought a bike from QVC, and I'm not trying to diss QVC bikes or anything, but I brought this plastic bike home and put it together in my living room, and I started riding it, and I felt like I'm gonna break this thing. I'm like, well, okay, let me just try some videos, and I went on YouTube and I found some videos, but then I kept getting hits for Peloton videos. I'm like, what is this Peloton thing? And I this was before they were big on TV and stuff, right? So I eventually I'm like, I need something more than this little plastic bike. So we shipped the bike back and I went to the Peloton store in Virginia and I was like, I need this bike. So that's kind of how I got started. Um, yeah, and that was back in, like I said, 2017, and I was kind of intermittent with riding back then. But then the next year, 2018, I discovered all of the communities, and that just made a huge difference. And then now I'm on like my 276 week streak, So I'm very proud.
Wow,
So
that's a big streak. Oh,
yeah,
congratulations. I love it.
thank
All those little
you.
things are so motivating, like you're on the streak.
Yeah.
You can never break that. You
Mm-mm.
have to do
No.
a workout every week.
Yes.
You're in.
Yep. Yep.
It's not even a question, right?
Yep.
So you got the Peloton, and then how quickly did you find Power Zone riding, Power
So
Zone
that
training?
came, yeah, so that came after I did another challenge with another group. Someone mentioned it and they said, "Oh, what are you looking at doing the Power Zone challenge?" I'm like, "What's that?" So I did an FTP, I joined the challenge, and this was probably like 6 months into consistent riding. And I was hooked. I just became obsessed with it. For a lot of different reasons, and a lot of people talk about the structure of it, so that was definitely part of it. But one of the big things was I felt like I was really an athlete. Like I was doing like this structured riding, and I'm an athlete, and Matt used to call us his athletes. So I'm like, I'm an athlete. I was last to be picked in gym class, but now I'm an athlete. So I was so, it was just it became addicting. And then in that summer, there was the Power Zone invasion in New York City, where we all went down, where the PZP went down to New York, and we just spent a whole weekend with Matt and Dennis. This was before we had the other Peloton Power Zone
Awesome.
instructors. Yeah. So yeah, that was really fun. And then I became a team lead after that for a while, and it was cool. It was good stuff.
Yeah, I can see how it would become just the steps that people take from getting the Peloton to finding Power Zone training and finding a challenge or a community and just taking those steps. And you are training like an athlete. You are an athlete.
Thank
But
you.
what a beautiful job that Matt and the team has done in bringing Power Zone training to the general population. This was for racers, and really only elite racers had power meters on their bikes. They were
Yeah.
prohibitive, $2,000 or something to get a power meter on your bike and learn to
Oh.
train with it and learn to do the analytics and really actually use it right. So bringing it to Peloton, I think, was a huge step in just getting
Mm-hmm.
the general population to train smart, because that's really what it's about, is training intelligently, using your own FTP and capabilities. So I'm glad that you are hooked, and everyone else, because yeah, it's it's intoxicating sometimes just to be able to feel like an athlete and treated that way. So
Yep.
cool. Um, Anything else on the community, like a team lead? You must have gotten to know and talk to many, many people
Yeah.
just throughout the years, and all this training. And COVID probably had some implications. And
Yeah, it happened during COVID too. Yeah, it was I just loved it because finally like I was able to have an outlet for all the excitement and love that I had for Power Zone training. I'm like, oh, I can share it with people who will listen and care. And yeah, and I met a lot of friends who I've yet to meet in person, but I would love to meet them, in real life someday. But I made connections that have stayed with me. We built some really good relationships through the program, so it's
that's
cool.
awesome. So what about goals?
Yeah.
I mean, you get into training like this, and you must have had some goals. And I know maybe your most recent one was the MS ride outside and getting outside, but any other goals along the way, and what are you proud of? And how did you set goals?
So for goal setting, I did lose a lot of weight through Peloton. I know that weight's not supposed to be a huge primary focus all the time, but it matters to some people to really they have that goal to lose some weight. And I think I lost probably 30 pounds on the Peloton. I'm only
Wow.
5'2", like I'm not that tall. So for me, like 30 pounds is a lot. Um,
Wow,
and
good for
uh, and
you.
it stayed off. Yeah, thank you. So that was in the beginning that was the goal, but then it just kind of stays off naturally as you stick with it and you start to build on other goals. You find new goals that you want. You find that you want to maybe increase your FTP, or maybe you just want to ride, longer and harder. And this is kind of a silly goal that I have, but something that I look forward to after every ride. I like to see how big of a sweat puddle I can make underneath my bike. And I know that sounds silly, but for me to be able to, see that, I'm like, oh, that was me. I did that. So,
Physical work, you've done it. Yes, that's a good marker.
yeah, and it feels really good. So, and it's another goal is just the mental health part of part of things, because it really does, you carry it with you. And exercise, when it ends, it's not, it does the positive impacts don't end with it. That they stay with you throughout, throughout your day, or even your week, as you do more and more. It really, it carries over into so many other areas of my life. So part of the goal is just staying mentally healthy. So
Oh, totally. Yeah, with all of the things that go on with life and family and work, and it's really important to take care of yourself and your mental health. And man, cycling and exercise really just encompasses all of the qualities that you need to work on. So mental health is a
hmm
huge component. So glad you recognize that, and probably recognize that you get the benefit from it. Some of us, I think, forget
yep,
about that component, so it's easy to forget about.
yep.
What about specifically? How did you choose to do the MS ride most recently? How did you come about to that
Yeah.
75 miles? I think it was 80.
So I was finding myself becoming looking for more opportunities to collaborate with people at work, actually, and across Comcast. And I saw that we actually had a cycling team. And in the cycling team, I saw this, they called it their like their cornerstone ride. It was the Bike MS ride. And I was like, oh, I think I want to do this, and not only that, but I knew I wanted to learn how to ride outdoors. I had tried before, and I didn't really have a goal to work towards. So when I was just, doing circles in the neighborhood, I'm like, oh, okay, that's enough. Actually, I blame my mom. I have to blame my mom for that. And if she ever sees this video, I'm gonna say I'm sorry in advance. But when I was little, we were. She loved that we rode bikes. We rode bikes outside in the neighborhood, but we were not allowed, and we were allowed to ride circles in the church parking lot, but we had to walk our bikes from our house to the church parking lot. Then we were allowed to do circles. So it's totally my mom's fault. She put like the fear of God in me when it came to riding. But anyway, so I knew I wanted to tackle that. And it was just, I'm like, I want to do this. I heard people talking about Peloton road riders. I'm like, I want to be a road rider. So honestly, from there, it was just started taking steps to make it happen. I did an event where I just rode, first time on the road ever, 13 miles. And it was in a group setting, so I had support and, safety precautions and all that. And then it was kind of like a whole, to get where I needed to be for the ride was a whole process. It wasn't just get the bike and start riding outside. I had to, I don't know how many different types of clip-in pedal or clipless pedals I tried, different kinds of like the different cleats, the bike fitting, all of that. It was just a whole process. And the number of times that I fell, I think Teresa talked about this when she did the spotlight about the person who got their brand new bike and dropped it right away. That was me.
You're not alone. I think we all have scars. We all have scars up and down our legs from falling
Yeah,
the first time riding with clip-ins. That's that's
yep,
pretty common. Or
yeah. And there was nothing you could do. Like I knew it was gonna happen, and then like the truck drove by. I'm like, you didn't even ask, are you okay? You just drove by. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm thinking I'm okay. Don't ask about me. I'm good.
oh no.
I know.
Well,
But
you're here now and up here healthy and fit. And what are some of the other challenges though? You're on this 276 week streak, right? 276 weeks. What,
yeah,
yeah, we all have obstacles and things get in the way. What else has gotten in the way for you?
yeah. So I think we could probably all relate to work or family obligations. That's always, there's always the time factor, right? Do I have time to do this? And then other things, sometimes there are just some priorities that you really have to figure out, how am I going to fit time in for this? Like for example, my dad last not this spring, but the spring prior, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So I knew that it was kind of like I was torn, because I knew that riding would help me mentally stay healthy, but then how do you take time away from being with a family member who you don't necessarily have that much time left with, right? So that, and we had, I'm fortunate that I have there's four girls. There's three sisters that I have, and we were all able to help him. It
Oh,
wasn't
nice.
just one person, yeah. So we really joined teams. But when I think my point is that during that time, choices had to be made, and obviously my dad did come first. But I didn't want to lose my weekly streak. I was very set on keeping that weekly streak. So, and some days I felt like I was cheating. Like I wanted to do a ride. I would one week the only thing I did was a 5 minute meditation, and that was literally it. But that 5 minutes, it helped me really tackle the day and make it through when I didn't think I could even get out of bed. So that streak that we all, we all track our weekly streaks or our daily streaks, whatever it is that we have, and embrace those little motivators because that little 5 minute meditation that kept me in the game. Next week I was like, hey, maybe I can do more than a 5 minute meditation. Maybe I'll get back on my bike and even just do a just ride and just pedal. So I really encourage anyone if they're reaching a point where they feel like I don't have time for a 45-minute ride or a half-hour ride, or I don't even have time for a 20-minute ride. That's okay. Find something that you can do. Anything that will keep you motivated and in the system and stay in the game.
I think
So,
absolutely good advice and good for you for realizing that, hey, even when this is probably the worst thing that happens to anybody, loss of a parent or a family member, and you're going through it, and it's a slow process. It's not like it's going to happen overnight. You've got to take care of yourself so that you can be there the next day. And that's so hard to do, but it is really important. So yeah, good for you for doing that. And thank you for sharing that message for everybody. And yeah, you and I are the same, and we just talked about this. My dad died just a few months ago, and so it's a
mhm.
similar situation. And I had to take care of myself. Somebody in your family needs you. Well, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to bring a good you to whatever is needed, and that's true for
Mhm.
your family, your job, anything. So, uh, I think it's okay to not feel guilty when you're taking care of yourself, and you look at it that way. So,
Yeah.
uh, um, well, thank you for sharing all of that, the goals and everything. Do you have anything next that you want to do? What's the next? You got done with your 75-mile ride, and
Yes. Now I want to learn how to do hills.
yes,
Yes. So I'm actually really nervous about this one, and I so this is how we kind of want to approach this one. So at the first thing that went through my brain was, okay, I just did 75 miles and I felt like I should have gone for the century because I felt that good afterwards. So I'm like, I'm going to go for this ride goes up to 80 miles with the hill, so I'm going to do that one. But then I'm like, well, wait a minute, let's consider some other factors. The hills, Bike MS was very flat. And then this hill ride to me, like they look like they're mountains. I know that they're not really mountains, but they look like mountains to me. So what I ended up doing, yeah, so I'm thinking, let me kind of meet in the middle and go for the 30 miles and still be able to like tackle that hill and feel proud that I was able to get in some hill rides, but and then also use the rest of the ride to also not just finish it, but finish it strong, finish it quickly, practice my pace,
yeah.
all of that. So
I
that's
like
my
that. I
my
think,
upcoming
oh,
goal.
that's awesome. When is it?
The 21st. And it's actually for a really good cause too. It's for the Special Olympics of New Jersey. So it helps, it's like a nonprofit organization that supports individuals with mental limitations, both, children and adults, and it opens the world of athleticism to them. Just because of their mental capabilities may limit them in some parts of life, it doesn't have to be limited for for being strong and athletic. So it's
Nice.
for a good
Yeah,
cause.
sure. And then they get the benefits that all of the benefits that we were just talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
I like that goal a lot for the hill climb because a lot of times we get carried away and I need to do a longer 80 miles, 100 miles, and 200-mile rides. And there's a
Yeah.
350-mile gravel ride, and people just get carried away. There's absolutely benefit to trying to do a shorter ride faster.
Yep.
So I like that goal. That's interesting to me. That's where that's how I raced. I did shorter races and just tried to do them fast. So I can totally relate to that. That's awesome. Well, oh man, all of that is really good. Thank you for sharing. What
Yeah.
questions do you have for me? You've got the coach on the screen. Nothing
Yes.
too hard. Don't stump me.
I have FTP questions that I've had probably since I began Power Zone training, and I just could never really figure it out. So with the FTP, we know that it's not exact. We know that it's a really great baseline for what we could hold for an hour, right? Is it possible that some of us can over test and then when we go to actually execute on the ride, like if we can't hold those new zones, we can't hold zone 4 for an hour, does that mean that we maybe over tested? Is that possible? Because I think probably a lot of us can relate to when we're in class and they tell us that you can hold zone 4 for an hour. We're all thinking, I can't hold it for 2 minutes.
No, right?
Yeah.
So over test. So by over testing, you mean test and get a higher result than what your threshold really is, your lactate threshold.
Right.
Not over test like test too often, which I think both
Oh, okay.
both are true. You can over test, and you can in that you could test too much. And I think a lot of people might do that. But you're talking about testing where you get a result that ends up being too high, or your zones end up being too high. And I think that does happen a lot. Uh, First of all, it depends on the day you took the test. You know, I've kind of designed these training blocks to land on a rested, fit day. Only you're not in that condition throughout the whole training block, the whole 6 weeks. So, yeah, you might test a little high. So I guess there's two parts to a test. There's the test to test your fitness, but then you have to set your zones based on that test. So you want to get a good score because you want to prove you've been working hard and validate your hard work. But to then set your zones on it, yeah, maybe you're not ready for the zones that go along with it. And that could be two different things. It could be you tested when you were peaked out and ready to perform and you're not always in that condition. Or it can be the differences in the, did you happen to take the max ride and find your zone 5 or your 5 minute, 1 minute and 5 second?
I did I did the zone or the max class, and then I also did the ramp
So you've
test. So I
done
did
both.
both.
So
I
you
did
have
both.
FTP, but where your 5 minute relates to FTP, 1 minute relates to FTP, and 5 seconds relates to FTP, all are percentages. We're all built differently with different muscle fiber types and different energy system components of all of our. The makeup is different. You might be more aerobic, you might be more anaerobic, and whether you can hold zone 5, zone 6 at the percentages within the zones depends on your genetic makeup mostly, and also how you've been training and how long you've been training. So just because I put 115% for a 5 minute interval, you might be able to do it very easily, and somebody else might be not able to only do. They might only be able to do 108%. So that's why the zones are there. Uh, Yes, you can overtest. I think that 95%, we take 95% of that 20-minute number and we're just gunning for it on maybe even a 90% to set the zones. Depends on what kind of workouts are coming up. It depends on your genetic makeup. So you could probably talk about it all the time, but if you really pay attention to what workouts are coming up, maybe there's an endurance-based training block coming up, and your zones are going to be fine because we're not going above threshold. Or if
Right,
there's
right.
a heavy, like a fairly intense training block, like the one we're in, maybe your zones need to be a little bit lower, and that's just because of your genetic makeup mostly.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So don't beat ourselves up if we're not like riding at
Oh
the
my
top of our
gosh.
zones. We're
Yeah,
never an FTP.
no. Yeah, no, no, never. And it's so easy because there's hey, here's a test and this is what you're supposed to be able to do. It's very easy to beat yourself up. Well, how come I can't do it? And it's very easy to beat yourself up. How come my FTP isn't going up anymore? I've been doing this. It's great when I first started, but it's not going up anymore. And it just doesn't. Sometimes it just doesn't unless you can train longer or unless you can change the way you're training. So come at it a different way and maybe it'll go up, or maybe it's done going up and you need to raise the other metrics, the 5 minute, 1 minute, 5 second. So there's so many other things, or get outside and put some other goals on your calendar instead of, or in addition to the FTP.
And also maybe heart rate too, right? And my heart rate is always, I notice I have I don't know if I just have a high heart rate naturally, but I find myself obsessing over, is my heart rate too high? Is it too high? Am I really working at the capacity that I'm supposed to be working in? And if I keep working at this capacity, will my heart rate get better? So that's a tricky one.
Oh, well, that is a tricky one. Yeah, and you're right. If your FTP 20-minute test is here and your heart rate is here, if your FTP stays the same over the next several months or ever, that's fine, but maybe your heart rate starts to come down. And we do want to look at that. And you can do heart rate zones. By the way, 220 minus your age is worthless.
It's a
There's
lie.
that formula. Not everybody my age has the same max heart rate. That's silly. Or your age has the same max heart rate. So you do kind of need to do a field test and see what the highest heart rate you've achieved, maybe in a max class or maybe in the ramp test or the FTP test, and use that as your max. And then we typically say 80 to 85% is around the cutoff between aerobic and anaerobic. Again, that's different for everybody. And how do you test? You can test in a with an estimation test, like a ramp test, like we've done, or the power profile or the FTP test standard, or you can get in a lab and have blood drawn and see when your
Oh,
lactate starts accumulating. Like it's actually not that invasive, but
oh,
really
I
that's the
never heard of
measure.
the blood test. That's
Oh yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I kind of want to learn how to do it. I've started watching YouTube videos on how to do it to yourself.
Oh,
So
be
you start
careful.
pedaling, you do go up every minute, like in intensity, and you prick your finger and you test the blood. And when your lactate starts to accumulate beyond, I forget what the concentration is, you're past zone two or you're in zone two. And then as it starts to spike, and you can really tell what your threshold is that way. So I haven't done
That's
it before. I,
crazy.
I do have a couple of athletes that go to a lab and get tested periodically, and they can really tell a lot from that.
Huh. Who knew? That's
Beyond my
crazy.
scope at the moment, but
Yeah. Oh, wow. Very cool.
yeah,
So,
cool. What else, Kristy? Anything you're really
uh,
wondering about?
um, I don't know. I have so many questions about things that maybe that we don't necessarily talk about every day, but like nutrition is something that's really interesting to me. I know that we've had conversations where you give me like tips and tricks on things that I never really even thought about, like riding outdoors. I thought that when you first told me that I could eat something or that I need to eat something every 45 minutes, I was like, whoa, because I was going for like 2 to 3 hours without eating anything. And it's just like little things that little tidbits of information that you share along the way just make all the difference. So would there be um, maybe an opportunity to have like a nutrition discussion inside the team
Oh, I think
space?
so. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Actually, I'll have to find somebody that can do it more eloquently than I can, and maybe record a call. So I think that would be the best way to do it. But yeah, and it's such a broad topic, but remember, y'all are athletes and treat yourself as fueling the workouts and not eating food. You're fueling yourself so that you're ready for your workouts. And that's maybe the first thing. And look at food versus fuel rather than extra calories. So stuff you
Yeah.
put in your body, you want it to count towards producing good workouts. So choose quality foods.
It
Uh,
definitely makes a difference because, like, I can tell you since we've been speaking and since I prepared for the bike MS ride, it was just total, total change in outlook on making sure that my body is resting, but that it's eating, that it's fueled properly with food. Instead of going for, like, after my ride, I'm like, I finished a 45-minute ride. It's time for a box of Cheez-Its. Instead of a box of Cheez-Its, now we go for something, maybe some Greek yogurt or something like that. And at first I was like, I don't know if this is making a difference, but then like you realize holistically, every little thing you do matters. I hear Matt talk about this in classes, and every decision that you make between after this ride and the next is going to have an impact on how well you perform. And it's so true. I started looking at sleep, at food, all that stuff, and it really it's amazing. It's just crazy how it works. It really is fascinating that it really does make that much of a difference. So
It's pretty
um,
cool that you're training even when you're not on your bike, you know, everything, even your
yeah.
posture, how you're sitting and how you're holding yourself. Are you
Oh, am I
contracted in your
slouching?
abs a little bit? No, you're sitting fine, but I'm just saying all of us,
Yeah.
you're always training, you're always there trying to improve your performance if that's what you're trying to do, but really you're just taking better care of yourself. You can get carried away crazy with it. Just one thing that comes to mind. I did years ago when I was racing. I went out to the venue of the race. It was coming up the next day, and it was a hot 90-degree sunny day. And a number of us were standing around after pre-riding the mountain bike course talking. And I noticed that we were in the sun and we were baking. These are the guys that I'm going to race against. And I just very casually slid over so that I was in the shade and they were in the sunshine. And I thought that I'm giving myself an edge by just making that one little change.
Mm-hmm.
So always trying to improve performance, but always trying to just take better care of yourself.
Yep.
uh, so yeah, let's not get too carried away with it like that, but it's just something that comes to mind. So
That's
so
cool.
much fun. Kristy, thank you for doing this. You are the athlete of the week, and really appreciate all you do for the community and for yourself, and what a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This was awesome.
Yeah.